You want to catch your breath, or I go ahead?
Yeah, no, go ahead. Go ahead.
I'd like to open the Harwich
No,
Affordable
it's a Christmas meeting.
Housing Trust meeting for October 8th, 2024. We not only have a quorum, we have all members present.
Wow.
And so we'll move ahead. Is there a public comment from anyone? I'm also grateful to note we have a public here, which honestly does not happen every meeting. No public comment then. We'll go to old business. We have minutes, draft minutes from September 10th. Any discussion? If not, entertain.
Just
Bob?
for the record, Larry, I want to acknowledge the fact that that's a package. It's a package that includes the September 10th minutes. It includes the Affordable Housing Trust application for 5 Bells Neck. It includes progress on 5 Bells Neck. It includes another document called Letter of Intent for 5 Bells Neck, and also Building 2 Budget.
Okay.
So there's really 5 documents in total.
Thank you for that, Bob, because those minutes are published on our website. And so they are, all the information is out there for everyone to see if they go to the Harwich Town website and look at the Housing Trust. Is there a second? Was that a motion, Bob?
It was a motion.
Second.
Second. Any other discussion? Not all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. I'll
Julie?
abstain because
Thank you. Next on the agenda is, I hope tonight to talk about the 456 Queen Anne Road. We moved that on August 13th, and it's in Joe's Powers' hands as procurement officer to come back to us with a draft land development agreement and ground lease document. And I was hoping Joe would be here. I've contacted him a couple times, and I am getting nervous because we have, I think, if I read that initially, we had a 90-day deadline to finish those 2 documents. And so unless Joe shows up right away, what I'll need to do is contact him again, and I'm afraid we'll have to schedule a special meeting to be sure we have a chance to review those documents.
I just know that it's under review. I don't have anything more than that.
I had requested, and I still hope to get a draft of those to our group before the presentation, because we will want to look at that and make our decision whether we agree with all the comments that the lawyers have committed us to. So that will come back to us. Next topic then is, and stay tuned for that, everyone, because as soon as I get information, I will try to schedule another meeting so we can move ahead. Next item is the rental assistance program, and Claudia, I'm going to turn this over to you because you and Brianna have done the legwork on this.
Sure. We had the 3 proposals that you sent out. So we got one from the Housing Assistance Corporation, Harwich Ecumenical Council for Housing, and Homeless Prevention Council. We looked at a number of items that we'd be scoring and that Brianna specifically scored. So those included qualifications, timetable, resume, references, sample of work, non-collusion form, marketing plan. And I probably looked at a few more points just when I was reading through them. Some of the things that I was looking at as well was the staffing, timetable, deliverables, obviously the marketing as well, outreach, and then some other pieces that came up just in the review of the proposals. So both Brianna and I, we met together and then separately kind of looked at the proposals. So it's okay to talk about the one we're recommending? Right. Okay, so we're recommending the Homeless Prevention Council. And Brianna, I know those were attached, had some of the The qualifications, the timetable, and the marketing plan exceeded the requirements from her assessment. When I looked at it as well, just from a qualitative standpoint, I know hers was very quantitative, and we agreed on what those were. More from a qualitative, I liked the HPC's robust staffing and ability to manage multiple towns, and they had a rundown of all the towns that they work with. Clients work with the case manager versus working with different internal departments. They seem to have a very good understanding of the CAPE resources, working with other towns as they described in more detail. They also work to identify and address other factors contributing to the housing needs, such as joblessness, addiction, physical abuse, and then they work together to address those issues. They had an excellent timetable for deliverables, also an excellent marketing plan, just showing that they really understand the area and specifically Harwich, mentioning places that do business and nonprofits that are here. They had the ability to work across all languages with interpreter services. They had disability accommodations. And finally, they had a confidentiality agreement, which showed an understanding of sensitive information. I think all of them were very, very good. To both Brianna and I, the HPC stood out. So that would be my recommendation, and Brianna's as well.
Okay. And I think Brianna is online. Brianna, do you care to comment?
Yep, I'm here. Everything Claudia said is accurate. I received the proposals from Megan, and then I reviewed them, and then I reached out to Megan and asked if we could pull Claudia in, just because she was so involved in the creation of the RFP. And we were in agreement, and I agree with everything she said, so that was my recommendation, and yeah, that's all. She pretty much hit the nail on the head.
And Claudia, if I remember correctly, they were active in several other towns doing rental assistance programs as well.
Yeah, I can't remember how many altogether. I have it here, but I feel like it was maybe 7?
I agree. 7 is what I remember as well.
Okay, yeah, I've got Eastham, Dennis, Wellfleet, Truro, Provincetown are the ones that I printed out, so. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5 towns that they are
Thank you.
working with, yeah.
Thank you, Claudia. We'll go to discussion with Julie.
I would just say, you know, in my past life, I dealt with HPC in terms of different assistants, and I think they're excellent, so I think it's a great choice.
Bob?
I certainly think that HBC is a great organization, and I'm just thinking about that comment that we made, I think it was last month. The suggestion was put out that we try to look at having a unified benefit structure with the other towns. So I'm not sure how that would now get addressed.
And you've lost me too. I think we would ask when we work with them further to be sure they talk to the other towns and see if we're on the same wavelengths possibly. But we haven't. I don't know how we would structure that right now, other than just encourage them to communicate with our neighbors.
One of the things, I don't know if it addresses it, but was really helpful was talking through to these different organizations. We didn't get to speak to all of them, just in trying to understand rental assistance. If you remember, just putting together the proposals and the different criteria and what each town is doing. HBC was good in terms of like letting us know, in this town, this seems to cover it, but it's not doing this because of this, and in this town. So that was all kind of part of how we came up with our criteria. It was based on what they were finding from their caseworkers in those towns, and then kind of looking at ours as well. So like, for instance, one was, you know, if we're looking at rental assistance moving into long-term housing, it was looking at how many years out are we with, you know, other possibilities to help determine how long we do the program. Not that they were saying you need to do one thing or the other, but it was really helpful input in terms of just having other towns to compare to.
Yep.
But again, I don't know if that is addressing your question, but.
Well, I just think that I'm perfectly comfortable making a decision as to who gets the award tonight, but I don't think that that ends our relationship. It just begins our relationship, and so we can work with them.
Let me push that just one other direction, and that is, Brianna, let me point this to you, because I know you're talking now to the housing groups in other towns. Is this something you would pursue as well?
Pursue in what way? What do you mean by that?
Just in communication where we're going with our rental assistance program.
Oh, yeah, of course. I'm in communications with all the other towns and housing staff and different organizations as well. And I work with actually all three organizations that put in proposals. So I would be very involved with communications going forward.
Okay, good. That is an important point, that we're working together with the town. Agree with that. Brendan?
No, great choice. Thanks for putting everything together, the bullet points. It was, I think, everything looks great.
Yeah, again, Claudia, great work. And I think when I was looking at it earlier, your choice, they seem to be the ones that I got the most positive feedback on case management of the groups we talked to, because they do it all, as I recall, they do it all in-house versus others will bring in, offer it, but they bring in outside resources to do a lot of it. And so they have a little more control of that. And let's face it, our rental assistance program is, I think we've agreed to 3 years max. Is that right? Is it? So we need to figure out a way to move on. Any comments from the public, from those?
I make one more comment.
Yes, please.
Just wanted to thank Brianna, just because,
Brianna, yes.
yeah, really, really helpful. Thanks,
course.
Brianna, for everything. So knowledgeable, so it was really helpful.
What I
Thank you,
entertain
and thanks
now
to you
is
too.
excuse me, I didn't mean to step over you.
No, you're fine. It's just awkward being on remotely. I don't know when I can and can't talk, but I was just saying thank you to Claudia as well, because she was equally as helpful.
I'd entertain a motion to accept the recommendation. The process would be, if we move that tonight, we'll move this to our town administrator to finalize the legal documents so we can get this going. And so, is there a motion to move forward?
Sure, I'll make a motion. I move that we approve the rental assistance Homeless Prevention Council's response to the RFP as discussed.
Thank you. Second? You can second your
Oh,
work.
nice, second.
Great job.
Nice job. No other comments? All in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Obviously not, since there's only 5 of us, we all voted.
And Larry, I just wanted to go back to item B for a second. I
Right.
see that Joe did send an email, it was later this afternoon, and he noted that the negotiations with Penrose are being scheduled via each party's counsel, and he already has a call into council on the updates.
Okay.
So just want
So
to
I'll
make
just
sure
need
we
to
lay that.
find out when we get something in so we can schedule.
Mhm.
I'm nervous about the 90-day deadline, so I remembered it, remembered it being, so I don't want to lose this because of that.
Right, no, but at least council's on it too, so.
Yeah, okay. Next on the agenda is an update of the housing website. I know, Brianna, you offered a comment on that, and I may have pressed this too early for you. But I would like to continue that discussion, because I think our goal on this is have a housing website that we're keeping people informed, and we've talked about for some time. And I'd like to be sure we're not losing that train of thought. Bob, I'll turn to you first, because I think you have some comments.
I do have thoughts on it. I think that we tried to vision this thing in too big of a way. And our hope was to have something that would merge the Housing Committee and the Affordable Housing Trust and the Housing Advocate and other entities. And And I think that that's a good idea, that we all connect. But I think the structure is wrong in terms of a website. I think the structure is more appropriately set up as a housing advocates website that would incorporate information about the housing committee, the housing authority, the housing affordable trust. But I think it ought to be the Harwich Housing Advocates website. And I think we could help with that website by putting some money into it. But I think that's how it ought to be built, as the Housing Advocates website with information flowing out of that, that speaks to what I've just said.
Any other comments? I actually thought that's kind of the direction we're going anyway, by talking about a housing website that included us, a housing committee. But you're going to emphasize the advocacy to even pushing out further. I guess I thought we were going that direction.
Yeah, I think it's what the subcommittee kind of like sorted out.
Yeah.
So that was, after all the discussion, it probably would stay with Brianna to run it, or whoever the
Right.
housing advocate is at the time.
Right. Makes sense to me.
Yeah.
It doesn't put us in the position of being responsible for constant updates.
Correct.
And managing a website that, I don't think that's in our skill set. But I can't speak for everybody.
Yeah.
Okay, well, you can in this case, actually. Liz?
Hi, everybody. Elizabeth Harder, Harwich Housing Committee. I believe that was the plan all along. The reason Brianna is working with members of the Housing Committee and the Affordable Housing Trust is to create the website, make sure it's going to be something that we're all happy to have our names on, and she would be the administrator. We would send her the information. Any information we had, it would be really nice to give her new information at least weekly. And that would be how it's run. But I do think the three of us need to discuss how it's created so that it will allow us to do what we want it to do. Does that make sense? So I think we're doing what you want us to do. It's just that, the initial setup we should all have a voice in how it looks. And we should be there so we make sure that Brianna is comfortable with what we come up with and how it works and how the structure is. Since she's going to be the one, at the end, responsible for it. Does that make sense? I mean,
I hear
Sure.
what you're saying.
Claudia?
What would be like, so, and I know, Brianna, you wanted this November, so it's very funny that we're talking about it in October, but, so if we had, so obviously things that Brianna knows about, like the rental assistance program, she'll be able to post as she knows, because she's gonna know all the stuff that's going through the town, so that's excellent. And in things like we find out along the way, like we found out that there's a rehab program available to Harwich residents. Are we forwarding that to Brianna to say, this seems like a good thing to put, based on what we've talked about are important initiatives, to say, okay, this is available, can you put something on there that sends a link to this and blah, blah, blah. So I don't know if that's been discussed, just as we find out things, do we just forward those on, or are you all gonna keep meeting, or I'm just not sure how, from here, where we go?
I'm sure Brianna will want to speak on this because I don't want to speak for her. But in my interpretation, once the website was done, then we, in the housing world, and it's not just the committees, Richard, if Mary wanted to write an article, anything about housing could go on the website. If Brianna doesn't want it all to come to her to have to deal with, then I'd be happy to have the committee help or write up articles, because that's one of our major mandates is communication. So through you, Mr. Chair, to Brianna, I'm happy to do it either way.
And Brianna, I missed, I obviously didn't read your email correctly because you have to be put on the agenda, and I assumed it was for October, and you mentioned November, so we're a bit ahead of ourselves. But nevertheless, this is a good discussion because I agree with the structure, but what makes me most nervous is that we keep the website updated, because that's where they fail if someone's not doing that. And so I certainly agree that we need the structure simplified. It makes sense that I'm a little more comfortable with Brianna, if you're willing to do it, to have it go through a single person rather than a committee to be sure that there's a link getting on the website. But we can keep that discussion going.
I don't mean that I would also put things on the website. What I mean is I could go through it, make edits, check things, do the the little edit things, compile them, because Brianna won't have time for like the nitpicky stuff. So, and then I'd forward it to her. I wouldn't put it on the
And you guys are
website.
still meeting anyway, right?
Brianna has her hand up on the meeting.
Brianna, and then let's go to Brianna, and then I'll go. Can you see that?
Yes, if that's,
Yeah, it's right there.
yeah. Am I all set to?
Yes, please.
Okay. What Elizabeth is saying is correct. There was never any intent for any of you or the committees to be responsible for updates at any point. So it will sit with me or whoever in the future is in this position. I think that anyone feeding me information to go on it at any point is perfectly fine, Claudia. It doesn't have to be like a formal meeting or come through certain people. I think if you have anything that you think is good to go, good to go on there, send it my way. And oftentimes I may have already heard of it, but sometimes I may not have. So it's almost done. It should be done by the end of the month. The hardest part was just creating a professional looking website when that's not my background. So that's been the biggest challenge. The goal was to have it done October 1st, but I really want it to look nice. But I would say it'll be done by the end of the month. And we'll probably meet again to review it, finalize, and then have each committee review it.
Thank you, Brianna. That helps. Liz, any more? Richard?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Richard Waystack, Harwich. I understand, I just heard Brianna saying that she's doing it, designing, et cetera. We have a protocol in town already. We have an IT manager here who works in town hall, and I know that anything that gets onto the town website goes through a process. And no disrespect to our housing advocate or you as a committee or the housing committee, but that is not in your wheelhouse. That is not your expertise. And to have something that's representing the town as an organization should go through the process of a professional who's doing it. And I'm hoping that you are consulting with our IT person in town or having a third party do that website for you without having a policy of what goes on it, because it's representing the town of Harwich. So if an article goes in there, it should be something that is appropriate, is factual, is that there is some type of screening process or editing process that's there. And I'm just hesitant that it's being produced representing the town of Harwich, and I would hope that it's going through the process with the professionals, what we have already in town right now. So I would just encourage you to utilize that process with our IT person and the protocol that's already in place for the town website.
I see Brianna has her hand up because my understanding is, Richard, she's been working with the IT people throughout this process. But Brianna?
That's correct. I absolutely reached out to Sarah prior to starting this whole process, and I've actually spoken with the professionals at GoDaddy, which is the website we're using. That does cost a little bit of money, so I would need to come up with funds. Sorry, I'm carrying around my very heavy baby. And
but, you know, IT has been, I've spoken to Sarah since day one about this whole thing.
Thank you, Brianna. Richard, does that answer your, we don't, obviously don't want to get far afield from what the town's already doing.
No, I agree. And, you know, GoDaddy is a third party that has domains and can hold a website. I don't believe that our current town website is being held there. I just want to make sure that it's being done according to protocol because it is a town website. And with the town website comes liability. That things on it have to be vetted appropriately. If someone's writing an article, I could write an article, but I'm not a professional. You know, and it's just going onto a website. There should be a vetting process of what is there. It should all be factual as our town website is.
Julie?
So just to follow up that, when we were talking earlier about what goes on there and how it
Yeah.
gets there, you know, I think anything that's gonna go on the website, if it's coming from housing or it's coming from this group, you know, it's that it's been in front of the board and voted to move on, to pass along to Brianna, so that we make sure that everything is uniformed and everybody's reviewing it, so that we, again, that we're getting documents on there that we know have been vetted prior to posting.
Yeah. Okay?
I believe if we're, Elizabeth Harder again, I believe if we're presenting something as fact, I agree. But that means the select board has to be responsive because we need new material every week to keep people going. But if we're putting up, hey, there's a housing fair Tuesday, hey, this organization is holding Housing 101, I believe Brianna should have enough responsibility to
I'm
do
not
that. If we're
referencing
posting
document.
articles that explain the new zoning laws or things like that,
Well,
I think that, you know, to have to go through the select board, it's ridiculous. You know, for things that we're saying, yeah, the Affordable Housing Trust has chosen this, and of course that has to go through the select board.
No,
But
I'm not
if
even
it's
saying.
just information,
I'm not saying the
we don't have
select
time.
board. I'm just saying that
Committee.
whatever committee
But-
the information is coming from to go to Brianna to be posted,
Right.
that it would have been vetted by that committee, whether it be the housing committee, whether it be the Affordable Trust, or any other group in town, is what
the
I'm
committee,
saying.
Not
Not the
because the
select
select
board.
board
No.
adds an
Nor do
extra
we have an
month.
agenda big enough to accommodate that.
Right, okay.
I was just trying to say that to make sure that the documents are vetted by each committee that's referring it on to Brianna, and any
Well,
other department that would be.
Okay. Let's move on. This is an update. It's in progress, moving the website. And we have a committee working on it. And,
Can I add one last thing? Time? We have time? No time? We have time. I'll make time. Just budget-wise, I know Brianna brought up dollars, and if she would be asking for money from us, that's all. Is there
Yeah.
any,
we'll need that information going forward.
okay.
In the end, that was a good discussion, because we do need a structure in place, and the structure entails, as you mentioned, some guidelines on what can go on or not. This has to be easy in my mind, and then, even though we'll go through Brianna, I still feel we have pressure to be sure that it's updated when things are on there. You know, for instance, after tonight, I'm sure we want the rental assistance on that, so that people feel it's worthwhile and informative. Thank you. Next on to new business. I put together, drafted a support letter for Pine Oaks Village 4, and it's a short document. Brendan has looked at and modified it some to shorten it. Brendan, let me turn it to you and look at what you're.
Yeah, so
And again, this is, we got an email from Joe, and I'm not sure of the timing anymore, about committees weighing in on support of Pine Oak Village 4. And I think what we're trying to say, what we're all trying to say on this is that as a affordable housing project, it'd be difficult for Affordable Housing Committee not to support this, at least in some context. There are, I think we heard, Julie help me out, I see we have Michael here too, it was discussion, not this, certainly a week ago,
Yeah.
from both sides. There's a lot of a lot of points that need to be clarified going forward. But that, I don't feel in my mind would, well, let me stop there and throw it into discussion. Brendan?
So I went through what you typed up. It was great. But I just, after listening to all the department heads, or I'm sorry, reading the letters from the department heads and the select board meeting and testimony from the public as well, I just took out some items that I thought should just be removed. The last sentence there really sums up what I was trying to accomplish. In conclusion, the trust strongly acknowledges and supports Mid-Cape Homes in their efforts to bring more needed affordable housing to town of Harwich. So that kind of sums up where we're really just acknowledging it, you know, what the letter to the state is, what they're offering, and I think that's where we should be. When you get into the weeds on some of the topics, like a traffic study, I don't think that's really gonna sit in our purview, so I was just, I'd rather not even either support that, or, so that was about 3 paragraphs that I removed.
Okay.
And I made a couple of changes throughout, so, but.
Good. Julie, comment?
Yeah, no, I read Brendan's, the revised version as well, and I think the message there about supporting affordable housing and us allowing the fact that the project continues to be vetted by the appropriate town departments and to address infrastructure needs and such. I mean, to me, I would like, if, depending on how this board proceeds, to bring this draft to our board, to share it with them and get their opinion on whether or not they would want me to sign it or not. Because as I indicated, you know, being the select board appointee to the Housing Trust, I represent the board. So I think this letter is doing just that, is supporting the initiative of affordable housing in a particular entity, but I think it's clear that it needs to go through the process to be vetted by department heads and such.
Julie, let me push back on that a little bit, however, in that your relationship as a member here as a select board is important to us, obviously.
Mhm.
But our recommendation would come from the trust, not the board. So
True.
I don't, I'm a little reluctant to wait on the board's approval of the draft letter. I mean,
And
you can vote to abstain. and
that's
we can
right.
still
So
move
if you
ahead.
wanted to do it, that's what I would do.
Because
so-
as a standalone committee, I don't want to, you know.
No, I agree.
cross that line.
I
recognize.
totally understand what you're saying. And so if you want to move forward today, that's what I would do. I would just abstain.
Right, okay. Bob?
I'm very comfortable not including those 3 paragraphs that Brendan has talked about deleting.
Yeah.
Those are somebody else's information, and I think I understand why it's there, but I'm comfortable with the statement that this letter makes as revised.
Okay. Claudia?
Yeah, it's the same. I'm
Okay.
very comfortable with it.
I pushed back a little bit, and I've shown Brendan in my mind, but I'm going to go with the committee. Only, not the removal of the letter, but only that I would like some acknowledgement that there was that Pine Oaks, at least to start a discussion on the traffic study.
Hmm.
You know, without any of the details in there.
Yeah.
Because there's a lot more to do, but I was kind of looking forward to giving them some credit for what they've done. And so my only modification on that would be to add a short sentence, say there's a traffic study has been submitted by Pine Oaks or something in that aspect. Even though it's not complete, it'll have to be updated. That was my only, but I'll go with whatever you folks decide. Michael?
Good evening, Chair and
Yeah.
members of the Affordable Housing Trust. Was this document that you're going to vote or seemingly vote put into the packet tonight for the public to read?
It has been, that's a good question.
And is there copies for the public that are here? But I think it's a little premature to vote a document that hasn't been presented in any way, shape, or form to the public to comment on it. I'll leave it at that.
Yeah, I have to say, Michael, but that's a reasonable point.
He has them sometimes.
Because it has been circulated widely to the committee several times. And I think it was attached to our agenda, but there you go. Okay, please.
Yeah, it was not attached to the
It was
agenda.
not attached. If that's the case, we can bring it back, yes.
Pamela Kendall, 86 Old Chatham Road, and I would definitely be interested in seeing what was removed from the 3 paragraphs on any traffic study done on Queen Anne Road. Raymond Gottwald killed my husband on Queen Anne Road, right in front of the transfer station, in 2012. I'd like to know how many other deaths have occurred on that road. I know at one point, the treasure chest itself was a huge issue for traffic and backup and congestion. So not having anything to reference from to see about the 3 paragraphs you'd like to have removed, I am very, very, very.
We're not removing anything from the traffic study.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, it's a draft
So
letter.
for just a little bit
Okay.
of clarity, we had the letter that was originally written.
Where can I
It's
get a
approx-
copy of that?
I'll put it on the website tomorrow.
Okay, because the traffic study on Queen Anne is absolutely imperative. I mean, as we
We agree with that.
all know. Okay, that was just on that specific part of it. I would definitely like to see the original draft and then the 3 paragraphs that will be removed. Thank you.
This was not a draft of a traffic study. Let me be clear on that. This was a draft of supporting letter in which I pulled out a paragraph from the traffic study document where say their traffic study said there was so much, the number of cars and stuff, and that's what we want to remove from our support letter, just say more work needs to be done. It has nothing, we didn't do anything with the traffic study per se.
All right, but there has been one done, you said, by Pine Oaks, is that
There has been, yes.
Okay, I'd like to see that, a copy of that.
That doesn't come from us, that has to come from the Pine Oaks folks.
Okay.
It's already on the website.
It's on the
Oh,
website.
okay.
It's on the website, yeah, and just separately from that.
I think we're gonna,
Let me just
I
read,
think we
let
should
me read
pause
the
and-
support letter.
let's do
Yeah,
that first, and then we get it.
That'd be the easiest thing to do, so it's out in the open. And this was based on a request from Joe Powers to be sent to the Executive Office of Housing and Living Communities. The Harwich Affordable Housing Trust, HAHAT, wishes to assert its ongoing support for creating and preserving affordable housing in the town of Harwich to benefit low and moderate income households with private entities. As proposed by Mid-Cape Church Homes, Pine Oaks Village 4's request for eligibility continues its partnership with the town of Harwich to develop additional affordable renting housing in Harwich. Mid-Cape Church Homes has a proven history of successful affordable housing development in Harwich, and our community is grateful for its vision and continued commitment. The state currently lists 328 affordable housing units in Harwich's state-approved subsidized housing inventory, or SHI, representing 4.98% of the total year-round housing stock of 6,581 units. This is up from 261 units and 4.5% in 2009, but down 333 units and 5.4% in 2006. The town still needs to produce at least 330 more affordable units to reach the state's 10% goal based on the existing year-round housing count from the 2020 census and revising housing production plan 2005. Pine Oaks Village 4 supports and greatly increases the Harwich Affordable Housing Trust effort to increase affordable housing in Harwich. HAHT recently approved 3 affordable rental units in cooperation with the Harwich Fire Association and 3 affordable rental units with a private developer. It is moving forward at 456 Queen Anne Road with a 60-unit, 90-bedroom affordable rental development request for proposal awarded earlier this year. Mid-Cape Church Homes states in their application Pine Oaks Village 4 is conceived as a neighborhood within a village within a town. When fully built, Pine Oaks 4 will comprise 248 units of mixed-income family housing and 10 buildings on 30.5 acres of land in North Harwich. The first phase will consist of 50 rental units and 3 buildings, 2 townhouse buildings containing 14 units and a 3-story corridor building, a lodge building comprising 36 units. 4 future phases will add 198 additional mixed-income rental units. There will be a community building, recreation areas, and walking trails. Pine Oaks Village 4 proposes a substantial development that clearly impacts the community's housing needs. This development will also challenge infrastructure needs in Harwich and drive attention to critical issues that affect future growth and development. Housing Trust understands additional information and discussion will be needed as the project progresses, especially regarding potential updates from town department heads and the Select Board. In conclusion, the Trust strongly acknowledges and supports Mid-Cape Church Homes in their efforts to bring more needed affordable housing to the town of Harwich. So that's what we've said. Sure.
Hi, I'm Sherry Stockdale, 246 Main Street. So in your letter, you're saying you strongly support the Pine Oaks effort to do this. There are 248 units, 440 bedrooms, all rental, with only the first round going to Harwich residents. After that, on the second round of rentals, they don't necessarily go to Harwich residents, they can go to anybody. This is after coming to the town and looking for CPC money and getting a 50% break on their taxes. And also, when questioned about the infrastructure improvements needed, they strongly indicated that they had no interest in being any part of that. So that would also be on the town to pay for. This neighborhood within a village, within a town, is more like a giant housing complex next to an industrial zone with no sidewalks, with no bike trails, with no way to access any of the Harwich conservation lands. In Orleans recently, there was an article about how the 78 affordable mixed housing units that the governor prints were all going to be for ownership, that people could buy and own. And I would suggest that we look more at a model like that than putting 1,000 people, 443 bedrooms next to an industrial zone near that Herring River, where they're not even planning to do a septic treatment plan until the second phase. So think about the nitrogen loading to the Herring River. Think about the very dangerous intersection of Main Street and Queen Anne, where people may, since it's workforce housing, may be riding bicycles to work through that intersection, which, as someone who's ridden my bike on Cape Cod my entire life, I never ride my bike there. There's just no room if 2 trucks are passing. So that whole Herring River culvert area that's right near where the proposed site is for this, it would need massive infrastructure improvements. You're talking about 10 years of vehicles coming in and out of there to build this enormous structure, these 10 enormous structures that would all need variances on height from the Zoning Board of Appeals. This place is enormous. It's very segregated in that these people can't walk around. They can't kind of assimilate into the wider community. It just seems like such a strange proposal in this day and age where we're going to have all these for rent with no chance for ownership. So I ask that you don't support this, but you support more smaller projects throughout Harwich. Right now, with the 456 Main Street, with this proposed, and even though it's in Dennis, the transitional housing, all of that traffic pours into the same area. The people of North Harwich are just being inundated with this traffic and this housing and just extreme habitat destruction on this 40 acres or whatever, 30 acres that they're proposing to build on. That will mostly be clear cut with a trail around it. That's not the same as having walking trails and bicycle trails and being part of the community. It's like you're putting all the workers segregated in this area so they can come here and work for and serve the landed gentry until, of course, those rentals turn over, and then it's not even Harwich residents doing that. So I question your support, and I hope that you will rethink it.
Thank you for that. I think, as I've tried to say in the letter, there's a lot of information we need going forward and be some further development. I still support additional affordable housing in Harwich. Even it has to go somewhere, I guess, is where. And maybe it has to be downsized. Maybe we have to do some more traffic work to make it happen. But you know, that's what our mission is to get more needed housing.
Again, Pamela Kendall, 86 Old Chatham Road, North Harwich. I think there were a lot of good public comments last week at the meeting, bringing attention to if they don't want it in Harwich Port, we'll dump it over in North Harwich, which is how we've gotten to where we're at with a lot of the stuff that we have in North Harwich. I think, you know, Mrs. Stockwell was correct in saying we now have the Eagle Pond issue, which I know is Dennis, but it's also pouring into that same traffic area. We already have a lot of problems in there. I'm really surprised at this board for writing a letter of support, especially where there were so many Harwich residents here. Mr. Nunes, you know, had a good point. He has to listen just to back out of his driveway. He's at the split of Queen Anne. The amount of traffic, I'm really surprised that this board would support that, especially knowing how other Harwich residents feel that are homeowners that have been lifelong Harwich residents. We built in North Harwich because we wanted to be away from all of the commercialism and all of that. And we've gotten the dump, we've gotten the treasure. I mean, it's just been continuous. Let's just put it up in North Harwich where nobody can see it, kind of a thing. And I really don't feel like that's right. I mean, if this project was being proposed in Harwich Port, this room would be filled. And I really do find it offensive as a resident living up there myself.
Thank you for your comments. I don't want to re-discuss all the discussion at the select board meeting. You know, it was a good discussion. Actually, there were both sides, I think, presented at that meeting. So it was, you know.
Yeah, there was, but yet you're willing to support this.
Let me do this, because Michael does raise a good point. I'll put the draft letter we have on our website, so it can be fully vetted, and we'll bring it back next week for discussion.
Sounds great.
Next week?
Thank you.
Next month, rather, our next monthly meeting.
Okay.
And so we can determine, you know, where I come from, I find it hard to not push for more housing, which we need in Harwich.
I'm not disputing that we do need more affordable housing everywhere on Cape.
And so I agree we have to move forward carefully, but we need to get over the hump and get more housing. That's
3 stories high, we don't have that on Cape typically, you know. This magnitude, several buildings at 3 stories.
Let's move ahead then. We'll put this out and then I'll bring it back next month. Okay? And Liz, we don't need further argument tonight.
I just want to say one thing about affordability. That road, as we all know from the 100 people that showed up, is terrifying. It's awful, and it's going to need to be fixed, whether there's housing or not. The town can do it at, I don't know how much that would cost. We could ask the DOT to do it. That's safe streets. That's how you got all those red turns in Harwich Center. Or if you build affordable housing, you get a grant to pay for the roads, and then the town doesn't pay for it.
We'll move it back. I'll put it on the website, and we'll be out there, and then we'll bring it back for next October. Michael, is that?
Thank you. Yeah, I just think, sorry.
Someone said last night, Mike.
I was waiting for that.
Good evening. I'm Paula Miles. I live on Main Street,
Right.
North Harwich. North Harwich didn't develop as quickly as other places because it's mostly water. And it runs under us, it runs all around us. That little area of land that's been targeted for for housing is filled, it's a honeycomb of small kettle holes, streams, and bogs. It's the distribution area for the river, for the aquifer, and in order to stay clean, the rainwater has to filter through sand. Filtering through sand does not happen with 10 immense buildings and the parking area for 400 cars. That's called runoff. And runoff is going to head directly downstream to the place that we're trying to protect. The Thatcher Bog is being bought to protect the Herring River and to protect the groundwater. And here we are have we seen any plans for runoff? What's going to happen to the runoff? What's going to happen to the sewage? That's the septic systems. All of this is really important, and before we give permission for something, we need to know those things.
So
Let me, Brenda, if we agreed to bring this back next month, and then we'll have a chance to discuss. But again, our support was to get those questions out there and get those answered, hopefully moving forward.
Yes, those questions should be out there before agreements are made, is what I'm saying. And the answers should be coming through. And we're waiting for them, but the clock is ticking.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yep. Brendan?
So I just want some clarity, maybe Michael, if you can speak to this, or Julie. So when the department heads chimed in, whether you have, Council on Aging, Health, Conservation, zoning compliance officer, they're weighing in on their specialty, right? So our specialty is affordable housing.
Yeah.
And I think we should really support any effort for that. Now, when you get into the weeds and the details, that's like holding conservation available for a health question. It's virtually impossible for them to do that. I think what we're doing is exactly what Joe asked for all the department heads to do. Now, I know we're a separate board, but I think that's what this letter is. We're not really acknowledging or committing any dollars. It's really just to acknowledge the effort that a private entity, very similar to people that we've awarded money to, when the fire department came to us, we said, we love that idea. Right. You're doing some housing. So for me, the letter, that's why I just tried to condense it, and you did a great job on the first draft, Larry, but I wanted to condense it because there were things in there that we should not be talking about. Our
Right.
purview is affordable housing, and we should really support the effort. Now, if their project is too big, or all the other issues, or the traffic is an issue, I understand that. But it's gonna get vetted through that process, and then through the comprehensive permit, and,
And the letter acknowledges that.
right, it does.
It
There's not,
acknowledges
yeah, we're
that.
not saying this is exactly what we want, and we think
No.
it's best. I mean,
So,
I think the letter, I think overall, the letter supports affordable housing.
Yeah.
And to your point, the incentive of trying to bring it here.
Yeah.
And that's all it does, is to say, and to your point, we're the trust, and I take your point, Larry,
Yeah.
very well. I'm just acting as one member of a
Right.
board, so I totally understand, and I think you're right. I think you're dead on.
yeah.
This is what your expertise is, this is what this board's expertise is, this group, and ultimately, that's exactly what you're trying to say, is we encourage affordable housing, and this is an effort to do that, so that's it.
I mean, ultimately, we don't have an application in front of us, and, I mean, it probably would have been best if it wasn't even on the agenda, because we don't have to do anything as a board. But I think after seeing all the department heads and weighing in, I think that helps with the public deciding on what's best for the town.
okay.
Right, and zoning, and, the
Yeah,
zoning board
I think
is
we should
really gonna be
comment
the
in
one who
some capacity.
makes their
Yeah.
decisions on the variances that people have brought up, and 3 stories and height and all that. That's under
That's a
their
future
purview.
discussion,
Yeah.
Right.
yeah.
Brendan, I think you're spot on, and I think that you were tasked with writing a letter for your specialty. My
Yeah.
point simply was that nobody had an opportunity to look at it. I was privy to the first copy. Brendan, you and I had a conversation. Thank you for having that conversation, and thank you for your edits. What you read is exactly, I think, what this board is supposed to be doing. The public did have an opportunity to weigh in on all of the department heads' letters at our meeting in a public hearing.
Right.
They didn't have an opportunity to weigh in on yours which is why I asked what I asked.
Right.
So everything else had an opportunity to be read and commented on, and I would only ask that you grant the public the same
Right.
by posting
And-
this
Well,
and letting them weigh in on it. But I think you were spot on, and the changes, I think, were perfect.
And Julie, quick question for you. How's timing if we wait 30 days? Is there a deadline for,
got
We have an
confused on that.
extension.
so the
Um,
extension? Okay.
We currently have an extension, and the date is, I want to say a certain date, but then I don't want to put a date out there if it's wrong, so I think it's November 1st. I don't think I have, it's in my email.
But you can give,
But yeah, I think we can.
bring us back that date because.
And again, your letter of support is acknowledging their efforts.
Right.
I don't think you're missing any mark.
I mean, we could knock it down to one sentence
Yeah.
if we wanted to. I think just acknowledging exactly what they're planning on doing,
Okay.
you know,
Yes,
so
right.
Are you going, we're going to need to discuss it more if we bring it back?
I just want to say that I understand your point about, sending the letter and your feeling that it seems to just support affordable housing. But I would say that it doesn't. It seems like you're supporting Pine Oaks, and it seems like you're supporting this project. And if the state is being asked to make a determination based on all the information they get from the town, your letter could sway their decision to allow this to go forth. So I wouldn't downplay the importance of the letter.
thank you.
Hi, Teresa Johnson, North Harwich. My apologies, I thought the meeting was at 6 o'clock. I didn't realize it was at 5 o'clock, that it was a different time. I have lived in North Harwich for over 25 years, and I'm opposed to the size of this 248-unit development in an area of low density, and the physical size of the mammoth 10 buildings, which are 3 stories in over height. I am very concerned for the environmental impact on the vernal pools and wildlife on the property, the additional traffic on the treacherous North Harwich roads that are currently at maximum capacity, the nitrogen impact on the Herring River, especially during Pine Oak Village Phase 1, where all the buildings will be on Title V septic systems. I had the opportunity to get information from the Cape Cod Commission on traffic issues, traffic studies. Queen Anne Road and Route 124 intersection for July of 2024, there were 25,101 cars through that intersection. And also the landfill provided information for June of 2024, there were 36,940 cars through the dump. How can Pine Oaks Village apply for CPA funds for a project that hasn't been approved yet? There are missing required studies and no approved site plan. Pine Oaks Village has a board member that is also on the CPC board, which is a conflict of interest. Even if he recuses himself, his presence will be present. Pine Oaks Village receives a 50% discount reduction on their real estate taxes and is now asking for our CPA funds, as well as other towns too, to help build their development with free money while they collect rents for years, which the town of Harwich receives no financial benefit. This seems to be very unfair to the taxpayers, that Pine Oaks Village gets to double dip, pay less taxes and receive free CPA money that helps offset their building costs. Our CPA money should be used to preserve Harwich by using funds towards the purchase of the Thatcher cranberry bogs, not towards a massive development that will be a detriment to the North Harwich. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, so I'll put this draft letter on the website and on the agenda for next meeting.
Okay.
Okay?
Thank you.
And that concludes my, in terms of, before I adjourn, and I didn't write the date down, but I did send you an application for funding, for CPC, funding for next year.
Mm-hmm.
And what I asked in this application was our $500,000 that we've asked for in previous years to add to our trust fund. And then in addition to that, $250,000 for support of the rental assistance plan. And we'll see where that goes. But I've been asked to attend a meeting. I think it's, I sent that out, I think it's October. I'll send it out again.
Okay,
But if you can make that meeting, that'd be great.
okay.
Any other comments?
No, good.
If not, Motion to, anyone care, motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We're out of here
Thank
by